Who would win the pillow fights?
Pretty much Tito or Jackie. They were the oldest.
Given all that you've kind of gone through in this kind of phenomenal rise, the artists who've sold the most records in history, as you look back from that period, who we might call ground zero, to the period of your maturing and writing, who was your greatest influence in learning to write? You write so well.
My greatest influence in learning to write music, I think this is where I was lucky. 'Cause in my opinion, I came into the factory of the greatest songwriters at that time and in the 60s. Holland Dozier Holland of Motown. These three guys were phenomenal. You know, Lamont Dozier, Eddie Holland. I mean, these guys were amazing. They wrote all the great Supreme hits and the four top hits. They just were amazing. And I got to learn and work with these guys. And I love some of the Beatles stuff. And I love the Beatles music, actually. And I love a lot of the show tune writers, Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein and Leonard Lowe and Harold Arlen and Johnny Mercer and, you know, these kind of show tune. Because I love melody. I love the great Irish pub songs. I love English melody. But in the rhythms of Africa, which are the roots of rhythm, that's my favorite music. Because I think that's the favorite music of the world. Because all music is derived from that. I mean, Africa is music. It is the origin. You know, it is the dawn of existence. And so you can't avoid that. So that's in everything that's been influenced, you know, by myself.
But so much as you went through these stages and you began to write and sing and dance, did you have like a dancing coach?
No, I never studied dancing before. It always came natural for me. Whenever I was little, any music would start and they couldn't set me down. They couldn't tie me down, actually. And even to this day, if somebody plays a beat, I'll start kicking in, making counter rhythms to the beat I'm hearing. It's just a natural instinct. And I've never studied. And Fred Astaire, who was a good friend of mine, and Gene Kelly, they used to always marvel at my ability for dance. And when I was a little kid, Fred Astaire used to always tell me how he felt in his heart that I was going to be a very special star. And I used to just look at him thinking, what are you talking about? But he could see, you know.
Michael, where did the moonwalk come from?
The moonwalk is a dance that I would love to take credit for, but I can't because I have to be completely honest here. These black children in the ghettos they have the most phenomenal rhythm of anybody on the earth. I'm not joking. I get a lot of ideas from watching black children, and they have perfect rhythm. So just riding through Harlem, I remember in the early, you know, late 70s, the early 80s, I would see these kids dancing on the street, and I saw a kid doing this kind of sliding backwards, kind of illusion dancing, I call it. And I took a mental picture of it, a mental movie of it, and I went into my room upstairs in Encino, and I started to just do it and dance and create and perfect it. But it definitely started within black culture, no doubt, and that's where it comes from.
Well, then, kind of connected to that piece of it while you were dancing. Did you watch Don Canese and Soul Train?
Oh, I love that show. Are you kidding? Of course I did. I would wait for the Soul Train line. They would have a line they would make of like a wall of people. Then a dancer would come through the middle, dancing to the song, and that would give them a chance to showcase their talent and what they can do with their body creatively. I used to watch that catatonically, just watching that. I was mesmerized by studying the rhythms and the dancing, of course. Of course I watched it.
Michael, you know, as you look back, you kind of make this kind of transition from ground zero and Gary, and you began to ascend. Then you became a man in many ways in a child's body. I mean, you never gained any weight. How did you manage?
Well, I've never been a great eater. I've to tell a little secret, I hate to tell it, but I've never been a great eater or a great admirer of food, even though I appreciate food and the gift of food and how God has given us food to eat. But my mother has always had a hard time with me all my life, forcing me to eat. Elizabeth Taylor used to hand feed me at times because I do have a problem with eating, but I do my very best, and I am eating. Yes, I am. So I don't want anybody to think I'm starving. I'm not. My health is perfect, actually.
You maintain this weight, man. That's what people are most jealous of and excited about?
No, my health is perfect, actually. I'm a great believer in holistic natural foods and eating and where I eat, and herbs and things. God's medicine instead of Western chemicals, not those things,
Michael, as you look back over this phenomenal career, you remember at least the 5th grade in Gary and how you guys became a big hit so quickly. What do you remember? What is to you the high point? I've asked people all week long the high point. To them, it may have been Thriller, it may have been Beat It, it may have been some performance. What for you represents the kind of high point?
Well, one of the great high points, I would have to say, because I remember before 82, like early 80s, I had done an album called Off the Wall, and Off the Wall, it was an important point for me because I had just done the movie The Wiz, and I wanted to express myself as a writer, as an artist, to write my own music, to do the music, to pretty much put it together. And Quincy Jones, who I loved, I was fortunate enough to work with him, and I love this man, and he's very gifted. But I was writing these songs at the time, like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, Billie Jean and Beat It. All these songs were written at this time. So I pretty much was setting mental goals of what I want to do as an artist. And that was a high point for me during the winning of the Grammys for the Off the Wall album. But I wasn't happy because I wanted to do much more than that. And I wasn't happy with, the way it was accepted, even though it was a huge success. It was the biggest selling album for the solo artist at that time. It was over 10 million. And for black solo artists. And I said the next album, I refused for them to ignore. And that's when I set my heart on writing the Thriller album. And I said...
What gave rise to the Thriller?
Pardon?
What gave rise to the Thriller?
What gave rise to Thriller was at the time I was pretty much disappointed and hurt. I lived in an area called Encino, and I used to see signs of graffiti saying disco sucks, disco is this and disco is that, and disco was just a happy medium of making people dance at the time. But it was so popular that the society was turning against it. I said, I'm just going to do a great album, because I love the album that Tchaikovsky did, Nutcracker Suite. It's an album where every song is like a great song. I said, I want to do an album where every song is like a hit record. And that's what pretty much hit Thriller was spawned from that. And I did that album, and it made all-time history. The Guinness Book of World Record proclaimed it as the largest-selling album of all time, and it is still to this day. And I would say that was a pinnacle. That was I reached a certain zenith point, I would think, but I still wasn't pleased after that. I was always wanting to do more, wanting to do more. And the Victory Tour came along.
At some point, you reached out before we get to the Victory Tour, and we had this phenomenal crisis of people dying, and you used your celebrity to pull the artists together to do We Are the World.
Yes.
What was that like?
We Are the World was a great project because Quincy Jones called me on the phone, and he asked me to write a song for the devastation that's going on in Africa, and Ethiopia was hit very badly, and he knew my love for the people over there, because I go to Africa all the time. I love the culture, I love the people, I love what they represent. And so I put the song together. He said, let Lionel Richie help you. So Lionel came over, we started, putting ideas together, and we talked most of the time because we pretty much caught up with old times, because I've been knowing Lionel Richie for many, many years. And so Lionel and I put something together, but I wasn't happy with it completely. So after that, I just went in the studio myself and pretty much completed it and finished it and packaged it and did all the music and put everything together and turned it in. And Quincy was very impressed with it, and he said, this is the song, we're going to go with it. And we put the song out. It became the biggest selling single in history, and it raised a lot of money. It was called USA for Africa, and we heightened public awareness on the subject. It was Relief for Africa. It was a beautiful thing. We gave a certain percentage to America, but the majority share went to Africa. It was a great, great thing.
Michael, I'm going to take a little break right now and come back and talk about the Victory Tour.
Okay.
And the Push Expo film, Save the Children, and what your present challenges are, okay?
Okay.
We'll be right back. Reverend Jesse Jackson, keep up a lot.